What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Um, we're out here on Nick Bosa watch. I was live earlier, went live on Instagram, then I had a few phone calls to talk, and make. Um, we're not getting any closer. And earlier, within the last hour or so, after my previous live, Ian Rappaport had a little bit of a report. I'm sure you guys have heard, you've seen the news. Well, let's talk about that and kind of talk a little bit more about this Nick Bosa situation because it is a pressing matter. This is the best player on the 49ers defense. There's a great team, but, the thing is, the 49ers defense is not going to be the same without Nick Bosa, whether it's week one or however many weeks this, trickles into the season. Hopefully, it's not going to trickle into the season. But, the thing is, this is kind of at a point where I feel like it is a crunch time situation. The Niners have to kind of act on this and get to the point where they just pay him. The agent's not budging. He wants a certain amount, and that's kind of what, Rappaport said today. He says that the 49ers and Nick Bosa's agent and everybody that, he's working with, they need a significant breakthrough. Like something big has to happen in their negotiations for him to get back on the field. Like he's not even going to step on the field until they figure out what they need to do to pay him. The 49ers to get it, we talked about this earlier. They want to look at the future. They know that whatever happens now is going to impact the future. And they want to pay Nick Bosa maybe the top edge rusher. And that's kind of what Rappaport says. He goes, there's no issue with them making him the highest paid edge rusher, right? About $30 million a year. I'm sure they're okay with paying him $30 million a year. That's kind of where they're at, like over TJ Watt. But where Nick Bosa's agent is, they want to know how close is he going to get to Aaron Donald money, 31.65. Is he going to be over that? Is he going to be at that number, just slightly above it? The numbers they've been looking at is about 34 to 35 million. That's what the reports have said, which we've heard over the last couple of days. How close is he going to get to the point where he's the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, surpassing Aaron Donald? That's what the 49ers want to know. Or not the 49ers, that's what the agent wants to know. How close can you get to that marker, right? How close can you get to that marker? And the 49ers at this point have to make a decision. I think right now they have to make um, the decision based on their future. Again, at this point, and this is why I always say pay Nick Bosa. And I know a lot of people are stressed and trade him. He's a diva, this and that. Whatever your take is, at this point, you just have to pay him what he wants because you can't think about the future. You can't think about 2024. I know that Ayuk's going to be on the books. Listen, whatever happens, when they pay Nick Bosa, it's going to have a big, impact on what they do next season. We know that. But you are in an all in mode. You're at the World Series of Poker. You're at the final table. This is the point where you have to put the chips in, all in. Make a big boy move. A big boy move. And sometimes it's scary. It's a big risk. NFL sports is about making big risks. They've got trigger happy a couple times in the past, but I feel like right now they are gun shy because Jimmy Garoppolo, they paid him a lot of money, he got hurt. Jerick McKinnon paid him a lot of money, got hurt. Trey Lance, they drafted him, paid him a lot of money, it didn't work out. So I feel like there's some issues internally that they're like they don't know if they want to take this gamble because injuries are a thing. They do have a Brandon Ayuk that they have to figure out next year. Maybe you lose some players. Maybe next year you can't get Arik Armstead. He's due a lot of money. Maybe you don't bring George Kittle back or Trent Williams retires. Whatever happens, we don't know. You can't tell the future. That's why this year is all in. Your Super Bowl window will eventually shut. Like, I'm not saying this team won't be good next year. You have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. There's still going to be a lot of good players. Let's just play. Let's just play a game. Let's just say Kittle leaves or he retires because he's getting older, right? And at some point he's going to leave. He's going to do sports media. He's going to do wrestling. He's going to do TV. George Kittle is going to make a lot of money doing something else other than football one day. He's got a great personality. I could see him in the media, movies, being an analyst. Him and Pat McAfee might do something. Who knows? I'm just saying. Let's just say Kittle's not there next year. Brandon Ayuk gets bumped up, and he's not fourth option anymore. He becomes your number one option, right, with Debo and CMC. So the offense will still be good if you lose George Kittle. I'm just saying. So, yeah, you might lose a guy like that. You might lose an Arik Armstead, but you just signed Javon Hargrave this offseason. They paid him a lot of money. So you know he's going to be a big impact player for this team with Nick Bosa. You might lose Armstead. So you have to realize that Nick Bosa is going to make this defense good for many years. There's going to be sacrifices that you take. The 49ers had sacrifices this year, right? Jimmy Ward, Aziz Al-Shahir, but they kept their core great players. And every year, this is the same case. They had to get rid of Lakin Tomlinson, right? They had to get rid of certain players, and people retire. Alex Mack retired a couple years back, right? Nobody expected that, but those are the things. In the NFL, players get hurt, players move on, players get hurt. But when you have a chance to sign a player of Nick Bosa's magnitude, you got to take care of him, and that's the thing. You drafted this man, and you hit on him, and he became the best player that you knew he could be. He became the guy that you thought you could get out of when you drafted him, and now the reality is here he is. He's Nick Bosa. You got to pay him. This is what happens when you draft a guy of that magnitude. It is tough, and I feel like the agents being very, 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 very tough. But we knew that going into this situation, and that's the reality of the situation. But the team is still good. They can win games. They're still going to be able to play at a high level. They got the best offense last year when CMC was on there. So it's not to say that this team's going to be gutter trash. They're going to be a 5-win team. They're not going to be at risk for being horrible. But Nick Bosa changes his defense. The stat that I posted from the Niners Wire, like this stat is telling. And this is where you have to look at and be like, damn. Okay, Nick Bosa, last 2 years, by himself at 165 pressures and 35 sacks. The 49ers, 4 current defensive ends, Clelin Ferrell, Drake Jackson. Who else they have? Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder. Those are your 4 pass rushers right now. They had a combined over the last 2 years, 117 pressures and 18 sacks combined. 4 guys, right, have way less than what Nick Bosa did in 2 years by himself. So that's a big step off in performance. He is the game changer. Teams plan for him, just like the 49ers have to plan for TJ Watt, right? We got Colton Malkovich has to line up against TJ Watt on Sunday. The 49ers know that when Bosa's in there, teams have to line up against him, right? That's the thing, man. And Sati, this is what I was getting to. I wanted to get to this point, and you bring it up, and I'm so happy that you bring this point up. Shout out to Sati, man. Always brings up great points in this chat. So shout out to my boy. He says one of the advantages of paying Brock next to nothing is you can pay the roster because you ain't paying the quarterback nothing. Pay him. Brock Purdy is getting paid pennies on the dollar. Sam Darnold is making $4.5 million, so much more than Brock Purdy. Brandon Allen, I think, is making more than Brock Purdy. Let's see how much Brandon Allen is making, because I'm pretty sure it is more than Brock Purdy's contract. Brandon Allen's contract, they signed him to a $1.23 million contract with a $200,000 in guaranteed money. Your third string quarterback is getting paid more than Brock Purdy, your QB1, because again, you ended up finding this guy in the 7th round, and he's getting paid nothing. This man's contract is going to allow you to sign Nick Bosa. You're paying him nothing. You got rid of Trey Lance. It is crazy. 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 Brock Purdy is making a base salary of $870,000 this year, with a cap hit of $889,252. $889,252 and a dead cap of $57,756. He doesn't even count against the cap. I know those are big numbers. Those are I would love all that money. Trust me. I'm not saying that he's not getting, but relative to other quarterbacks, Brock Purdy is getting paid nothing. You're paying him nothing. Big City Man says, seriously, we've been a quarterback away for 4 years. What is going on? Someone hit this layup in the front office. Hit the layup. They're setting you up for Dwayne Wade, LeBron, the best. You remember they're setting you up for the lob of the century. For the lob of the century. Dwayne Wade, LeBron hit the lob of the century. This is the biggest lob of the century that you could absolutely have. And it's set up. The biggest layup in the world, Big City Man says. I agree. Jose says, Chupapi Muñano. Yes, Chupapi Muñano. Pay Nick Bosa. Okay? Pay that man. Big City Man says, go sign Bosa. If we don't win it this year, go all in on a Hall of Fame or Super Bowl winning quarterback. This to me might be the year where you have to go all in. You absolutely have to go all in this year. Eric says the audio is messed up. We good? Let me see. Can you hear? I don't know what's up with the audio. What's going on? Can you guys hear me loud and clear? We good? I don't know what's going on. Should I pause? Come back real quick? We should. Let me know. Let me know. Test, test. I don't want the audio to be bad, so let's hear. Fixed, we good? Okay, Eric says we good. Appreciate that. Good. I'm glad. Audio is fine. Okay. Bad, good. Audio is good. Some people say good, bad. This is as bad as the Nick Bosa situation. Oh my God, this situation. Now I'm stressed out. They missed the layups, man. They missed the layups. You got to take the layup, man. You got to take the layup. It's a frustrating situation. I don't know. I don't know. Again, this news to me, Ian Rappaport, he's basically saying what we've been, what we've been saying, that Nick Bosa and his agent want to hit this certain number. They want to be the best, the highest paid defensive player. And I feel like they're basically saying, I look like I'm in shambles. I'm in shambles because I'm stressed out, man. Dealing with this, always refreshing, thinking about this, and it's weighing heavily on my mind. I'm sure it's weighing heavily on your mind. But the Niners, again, they want to pay him as the highest edge rusher. They want to pay him as the highest edge rusher. The team needs Nick Bosa. You could see the team morale is down. Nick Bosa's agent wants him to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. Now, as the 49ers, you have to ask yourself what they need to do, what they have to do. They have to ask themselves, do they believe he's the best defensive player in the NFL? And if they don't, that's sending a message to Nick Bosa that they don't believe in him, that they think he's the best pass rusher. And I know that maybe this is not 100% true. It maybe that it's not the words that will come out their mouth. But in Nick Bosa's agent's mind, this is the way he's going to report the news back. He's telling Bosa, hey, they're not paying you the money. They don't think you're the best defensive player in the year. Like, that's the way the agents work. Like, that's how they work. They're grimy like that. He's going to go to Nick Bosa and say, hey, we want this amount of money because you're the best. They're not paying you. They don't think you're the best. Like, that's the way it works, man. This agent, he's tough, man. He's a very tough guy. The family, the Bosas have been raised this way, and this is how they do it. It's a family business. Agent is tough, man. And the Niners are dealing with it, and it's a very frustrating situation for the fans and the players. You could sense in the locker room, like I saw, like I said, talking about that Talanoa Hufanga and Deshaun Gibson today, that you can just sense, man, like they want Bosa, man. This team wants Bosa. Last week, preseason game, Fred Warner, he sat there, he shrugged, and he said, pay Nick Bosa, basically. Like, this team wants their guy, man. And I'm sure Nick Bosa wants to play, but at the end of the day, he's proving a point. He's all in at the final table. And again, you don't come this far to come this far. You don't just do all these negotiations to say, oh, okay, yeah, we'll just take it. Take what you give me. This is the thing. If the 49ers go into week 1 without Nick Bosa, and if they lose the game, John Lynch is eventually going to cave in and pay Nick Bosa the money that he wants anyway. So why not pay him now than later, right? Why not just pay him now, get it over with, then later? Because is it going to take losing a game for Nick Bosa to prove his point to say, okay, we'll pay you what you want? Like, to me, that's stupid. Pay him now because you're going to pay him the money he wants if you lose week 1. If you lose week 1, you might have to pay him more. Like, that's to me is the dumb part of this situation is, let's just say, we're going to throw the number out. Let's say that he wants $33 million. Okay, we're just using the number. Let's say he wants $33 million a year. And the 49ers are saying, no, we only want to pay you $31 million a year. 31, I don't know. Okay, and that's where they're at. Let's just say that's the case. If the 49ers lose week 1, they're going to pay him the $33 million. So you're going to pay him the money he wants anyways. Nunn says the 49ers need Nick Bosa more than Nick Bosa needs the Niners, and I absolutely agree with them. There's other teams who would give anything to have Nick Bosa. I agree. I agree with that. I think any team would love to have Nicky B. And the Niners, eventually they're going to cave in. It's tough. John says this organization prioritizes business over loyalty, than loyalty over business. And you got to think about this. Over the last couple of years, this is not the first time this has happened. This has happened multiple times over the last couple of years, right? Kittle's deal, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if you guys know how Kittle's deal was. If you've read the stories and the reports, George Kittle's deal was almost not even going to happen. Like the Niners were pushing it. They didn't want to make him this highly paid tight end. They're like, you're not even. It got gross, man. It got really toxic in there. Like it was very tough. And George Kittle's agent was just as tough. And Nick Bosa is doing the same thing Kittle did. Is he's going to defer to the agent? Because I remember Kittle said, I'm going to do my agent do the talking for me, and he did it. And he was so tough, man. And they finally pulled through. And Fred Warner, his was a little bit smoother, but it was a little tough at the beginning. Debo's, you remember if they would have just signed Debo initially, there would have been no problem, man. But they wanted to pussyfoot, and they wanted to pay him as a running back because he's a wide back. Oh man, like the whole thing last year with Debo, they disrespected him because he is a great football player. But they wanted to market him at the running back position. The 49ers, man, over the last couple of years, they try to squeeze out money on these guys, and they ultimately lose people. It's not a good look. Eventually, teams are not going to want to come here because of this issue. Like Brandon Ayuk, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. Next year, Brandon Ayuk, he's not going to take credit. Brandon Ayuk knows his worth. Like, he's different than some of these. Like, I could see Brandon Ayuk, if they pussyfoot with him, if they play games with Brandon Ayuk, he's going to be like, all right, you know what? Hold up. Oh, okay. Josh Allen needs another wide receiver. I'm going to go to Josh Allen and be this guy. Be a wide receiver one. Because in 49ers, I'm your fourth option. Brandon Ayuk, when I go to this other team, I'm going to be the number one option. So I could see Brandon Ayuk, his negotiation is going to be crazy, man. And I wouldn't blame him for him. They got to come with the money, man. You know, it is tough. My man Jaime says, shout out to Raj. Thanks for keeping us updated on the Bosa matter. Going to the Bay, flying from El Paso. My man, El Paso, that's my home city. I was born in El Paso. He says, this coming weekend, hope I can meet you at the 49ers Fit Gym where my cousin works at. Yo, shout out. You know what? Maybe I should work there. I don't know. Let me know. I'm a PT. I'm a physical therapist. Maybe I could work at the 49ers Fit Gym. Let me know. We'll see. Maybe I should work there. I'm getting tired of my own company I work for. I need to negotiate a salary. They don't want to pay me my money. Trust me. Maybe I'm speaking so passionate about this situation for Nick Bosa because I see a lot of people that are against Nick and saying he's greedy. I've been in Nick Bosa's situation in my career. I've been on both. I've been a rehab director. I've been a supervisor in my position. I've been like a per diem guy. And then I've been just like a regular old, standard therapist working for the company. But I've always tried to negotiate. And there's times where I had to negotiate more money and they wouldn't pay me. And I said, okay, I'm just going to stick to doing this for you guys. I'm not going to do this because they wanted me to have more responsibility, be like a supervisor, but they wanted to pay me less than what my rate was that I asked for. And I was like, no, man, if I'm going to do more money or if I'm going to do more job and I'm going to be this guy that you guys lean on, pay me my money, give me my bag, run me my check. So I feel strongly about people that negotiate their money and trying to get what they need, to take care of the family and put a roof over their head. I get it. It's a little bit more money for Nick Bosa than I'm dealing with, but I see the story. I see the negotiation. I see how tough it is. Like, you don't just stand on what you want. Like, if you have a number, you want them to be as close as you can. That's it, negotiation. And if they don't come at you with a number that's even respectful, close enough, it's a disrespect. It's a slap in the face, man. And you can go to another company that'll pay you money. So I feel 100% where Bosa and his agent are coming from. I know not a lot of people do. I see it from that standpoint. And again, I've been a director, and I know how tough these negotiations are, man. And there was times where I had employees come up to me, and I knew how much people were making. I knew how much my employees were making. And there was times where I'm like, this guy deserves more money. This guy works his ass off for me. Like, there's certain people that when I was a director at my company, man, there was guys that I knew I could count on. And I was like, I need to get this guy a raise. And when it came to negotiating for them, because sometimes I had to negotiate for them, I was kind of like their agent, right? Where I had to go to the regional director, my manager, and say, hey, look, Bob Smith here over here. This guy works for me. I could count on him. He doesn't miss work. He's always on time. I can give him more work. I can have him more patience. He's very efficient. He does what he has to do. He deserves this much money that he's asking for. I know it's more money than you want to pay him, but he's been loyal to the company. So I know what it is to negotiate for other people too. And man, when they try to stonewall you and try to give you less money, you got to stand by your ground and stand by what you want for yourself or another person if you're negotiating. So it's tough. And I get where the companies are coming from. I get where like the 49ers front office is coming for, because they got to look out for their future. But hey, man, these players, the team doesn't care about them. The team doesn't care about, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, in 5 years, in 6 years, in 7 years from now, they're not going to care about Nick Bosa when he's retired or he's not on this team or whatever the case is. They're not going to care about him. They care about him now and their bottom line, because it's a business and they want to take care of their bottom line. It is a business. For Nick Bosa, he wants what he wants. This team wants what they want, because they want to make sure they save money and pay other players down the line, because they want the best players on their roster. Because if you don't have certain players, you're not going to win games. And nobody's going to pack those seats in Levi Stadium if your offense, if your defense, if your team is crap. Trust me. Trust me. I've been to Levi Stadium when this team was dog shit bad. Nobody's filled those seats. Now, everybody's filling those seats. Pay your players, win the games, and we'll show up to Levi Stadium. You don't, and I'll pay $20 for your stupid beer. I'll pay $25 for your nachos. I'll pay your money that you want me to pay you, because you're winning and you're giving us a good product. If you don't pay Nick Bosa and this team sucks, and if they lose games and you lose Brandon Ayuk and you lose George Kittle and you lose Armstead, why do I want to go and watch your team? I've been there when this team was winning 2 games, and I was in the stadium watching the 49ers and Jets, and the Jets beat the 49ers, and they were a 1-win team. Are you kidding me? I've been there. I don't want to see that. I don't want that. I don't want to be there when you're shitting the bed. I want to see this team win a Super Bowl, and that is where I'm coming from for Nick Bosa. That's why I'm using that hashtag. That's why I'm banging my fist on the table. Pay Nick Bosa. That's it. I had to get that off my chest. Right? Done. That's it. Pay free agents over their homegrown players. It's crazy, man. They build through the draft. They sit there and say they're building through the draft. They love these players. Absolutely love these players. You know, you hit on these guys. Kittle, amazing guy. Amazing personality. Fred Warner, when it comes time to pay them, when we come time to pay them, it's a song you skirting around. Pay the players, man. We're not going to be able to afford everybody. We can't keep them all. But pay Nick Bosa, man. Pay them, man. Sati says, take it from an X and O's perspective. A 49ers' weak point is the secondary. Bosa erases that by applying pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. If Bosa isn't there, opposing quarterbacks are going to feast. And I 100% agree with this. I mean, I'm not saying the secondary sucks, but it helps them. When they get pressure, 2019, man, the secondary was pretty good. Richard Sherman, he was good, but he was older. He had one of the best seasons of his career, because the pressure up front was just salivating. You had D Ford, DeForest Buckner, Arik Armstead, Nick Bosa. They were going crazy. They were wild up front. Absolutely insane up front. And it caused pressure. Quarterbacks were like throwing on their back foot. And you had Akello Witherspoon getting game-winning interceptions. You had Akello Witherspoon. Hey, shout out to Akello. He turned his career around when he left the 49ers, but that's another story for another day. Akello Witherspoon was getting game-winning interceptions. Good question. Do you think this team is ready to go blow for blow with teams like the Chiefs? They can probably match them on offense, but you need a good deep. You need Nick Bosa. You got to help take out Patrick Mahomes. You got to put some pressure on that man. You got to put some pressure on a guy like Patrick Mahomes or whoever the case is you're playing. You need Nick Bosa. The offense is good, but you need to give them some time to operate. You need to get turnovers. You can't put all the onus on your offense. The offense is good, but there's a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy this year. Brock Purdy, they're expecting him to be this guy, who I think he could be. I think he could be good, but there's a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy right now, coming off a massive injury. You want to make sure your defense is good and gets turnovers and puts your offense in good field position. You want to be at the best that you can be. You want to be in good field position. Having Nick Bosa helps with that. Defense is good, but it's not elite without Nick Bosa. Pass rushers, to me, are not as good if they don't have Nick Bosa. That is a key part of any team, an edge rusher. You know what Kyle Shanahan once said? And I'm going to quote Kyle Shanahan. You know what he said? A good pass rusher is very hard to come by in the NFL. And when you got one, you got to make sure you keep him. He said this. I'm going to pull up the quote. I know he said this. Kyle Shanahan. We're going to pull up the exact quote. So, Kyle, make it happen. Let me see what he said. Let me see what he said. He says, this is from 2018. Okay, 2018. Kyle Shanahan. So he says, this is what Kyle Shanahan says. He says, look, you look at the best defenses of all time that I can remember. He says, the Baltimore defense had a pass rush, right? He says, you go to the Tampa Bay defense with Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp. They had a pass rush. Okay, you look at all the teams that have gone to the Super Bowl based off defenses, right? Seattle, right? They all do a pretty good job. You go back to the days that the Indianapolis won with Peyton Manning. What was their defense from when they played the Tampa 2? They had Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis on the edge. They had pass rush people, right? He says the Chicago Bears, when they got there, they didn't have a great offense, but Tommy Harris was playing at a high level. They had linebackers to play the zone, but they got to the quarterback. So it's always been that way. This is the head coach of the 49ers admitting that you need a pass rush to succeed in the NFL. The genius, the offensive genius, whose offense is great, by the way, with CMC and Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan, the words that came out of his mouth is you need a good pass rush. With Nick Bosa, you have a great pass rush. I don't know how good your pass rush is without Nick Bosa. Rob says, if San Francisco offered $35 million, Bosa holds out for more, I got to start siding with the team. If they offered him $35 million and Nick Bosa doesn't take that, yes. Now that's a little bit out of control. That is crazy. I don't think that they're at 35. If they offered him 35, I think he would have signed at this point. So yes, I agree with this, Rob. If the 49ers offered him 35 and he wants more, that would be a little outlandish. That would be outlandish. That would be outlandish. Mark says, is that the same Kyle that said we have 3 starting quarterbacks and you don't get rid of talent and something like that? Yeah, it's the same Kyle. Red Eye said, Joey Bosa is a perfect example. He got paid, been a fail ever since. Injured every year, missing 6+ games. I mean, again, and this is what we talked about earlier, Red Eye. I don't know if you're on, but the thing is, the 49ers, they're going to look at it at that standpoint. They know it's a risk. You pay a guy, he could get hurt. Anybody could get hurt, no matter what. You pay a guy, Debo last year, right? You paid him, he didn't come into camp shape, and he didn't have a good season. Jimmy Garoppolo, you paid him, you made him the highest paid player at one point. He got hurt. It happens. So you're absolutely right. You pay a guy, he gets hurt. Jerick McKinnon, they paid him, got rid of Carlos Hyde, and he got hurt. So I feel like the 49ers, they could be gun shy, right? They could be gun shy because of the fact that, hey, they've done this before, but it blew up in their face. So I understand where the fear is, but you cannot have that. You can't have that mentality in your mind. You know what I mean? Like, in my eyes, if you're running a football team, you can't just. It's a possibility, right? It is a possibility. So people want to know. Hit that like button. They want to know what is Watt. Watt is I'm looking at it right now. He is 29.368 guaranteed. So he got 29 million guaranteed. 29.4. We want to round it up. 29.4 mil guaranteed a year. So they want to be. The 49ers basically offered him 30.5. I think it was close to like 30, 31. That's where they're at, 30, 31, somewhere around there, to be the highest paid edge rusher. Now, Aaron Donald is at what, 3.165. He's at 31.65. So the 49ers need to be above 31.65 because 49ers or Nick Bosa is looking to be the highest paid player defensively, higher than Aaron Donald. He's 31.65. So closer to 33, 34, 35, somewhere around that. If they're going to pay him the highest edge rusher, then they'd pay him 30. But he wants to be paid the highest non-quarterback, highest defensive player. So again, that's closer to like 33, 34, 35, around that range. That's where they're at. It's a couple million a year. And now I know we sit here, so it's only a couple million. When you get to that much money, I don't think $2 million is a big difference, in my opinion. When you're making $31 million, What's another $2 million? You know what I mean? So that I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. Malcolm Smith's contract. Arnav says, "What do you think the max Nick Bosa will sit out?" Honestly, I think Nick Bosa would sit out the whole year. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Nick Bosa would sit out the whole year. His brother threatened to do it a couple years back. I honestly think Nick Bosa would sit out the entire year. I know that sounds crazy. I think he would. If he had to, he would. It's like a Lev Bell. It's a Le'Veon Bell situation. Crazy, man. Red Eye says $4 million after tax is 2.64. Yeah, taxes out here are outlandish. Could be another reason they want more money because the tax rate is crazy. Genghis says you pay him because he hasn't hit his salary, his ceiling. You're right. He still hasn't even hit the peak of his abilities. He's in the prime of his career. He can get better. It's crazy, man. CJ says if Bosa sits out the year, then we'll be back at this spot next year. Yeah. It's tough, man. It's a weird situation. Again, it is a very tough situation. I think he could sit out a year. I mean, I don't think it's above him. He doesn't need them as much as they need him. You know, I was talking to someone before I came on, and we were talking about it. You know, in I think it was 92 or 93. I can't remember the exact year. It was 92 or 93. So a guy by the name of Emmitt Smith, you guys might have known him, running back. Back then, running backs were like creme de la creme. Like running backs were actually paid really high. They were highly valued. NFL teams love running backs, especially good ones. Like this guy, Emmitt Smith, you guys may have heard of him, Hall of Fame running back, Dallas Cowboys. He held out. He didn't get paid. Jerry Jones was pinching him. They were 0-2. Okay. After that, they were, all right, we got to pay Emmitt Smith. He's our best. He is our offense. They paid Emmitt Smith his money, ran him the check. They won the Super Bowl. After that, it was like, boom. They realized, okay, if we don't have Emmitt Smith, we ain't winning games. It was tough. It was tough to win without him. And they paid him his money. They ran him his check, gave him his bag. They won a Super Bowl. Now, I don't think that – I'm not saying the 49ers will win a Super Bowl because they paid Nick Bosa, but I'm just saying the chances go up when you have your superstar player. Emmitt Smith at that point was a superstar, larger than life. He was a Hall of Fame caliber player at that time. He ended up becoming a Hall of Famer. Nick Bosa, superstar, Hall of Fame caliber player right now. You run him that money, it makes your team that much better. That's it, bottom line. Bottom line. And after that, Jerry Jones learned. He learned. CJ says, face the facts. Bosa's out this week. It's looking like it. I'm going to still be positive. I'm going to hope and pray that he gets the deal done tomorrow. But like Ian Rappaport said, there has to be a significant breakthrough for this to happen. Something has to happen. So, Beast Mode says, I think the Niners are worried about money for the future. They absolutely are. Because, again, we talked about this. Brandon Ayuk, that's a guy that you have to worry about. Brandon Ayuk. You have to worry about, can we afford Brandon Ayuk next year? But to me, like, again, you can't have this mindset of, to me, it's all in. You don't know what's going to happen next year. If I'm the GM, if I run this team, if I'm the owner, we pay Bosa, man. We figure out the rest later. You don't know what's going to happen. Trent Williams, he might retire. George Kittle, he might not be here. Arik Armstead, you can figure all that out later. You pay Nick Bosa and you figure it out. Because if the 49ers lose week 1, you're going to end up paying him anyways. So just pay him now instead of dragging this out, potentially losing week 1, and then paying him anyways. That's my whole point. Don't wait to pay him because you're going to pay him that money anyways if you lose. Yeah, Throwback says this will be Juice's last year. It's possible, right? Armstead might be gone as well. It's possible. Duke says sacrifices are inevitable. Bosa's too valuable to F around and find out. You're absolutely right. Red Eye says Emmitt Smith is all-time rushing leader in NFL history. 18,355 yards. I guess it was a good idea to keep him and pay him. I guess it turned out to be a good idea to pay him, huh? It's a good stat. Emmitt Smith. All-time, that's crazy. That's a lot of rushing yards. His legs must have been tired. You know how many ice baths he must have taken? That would have been tiring, running for over 18,000 yards. Shout out for the stats, Red Eye. Genghis says the Super Bowl window slammed shut without Bosa. Do you guys agree with that? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Jimbo says Jerry didn't want to play Dak. I don't blame him. I wouldn't. That guy fucked his ankle up. Did you see that injury? Yo, respect to Dak grinding and rehabbing. That injury was brutal, man. I wouldn't have wanted to pay him after seeing that injury. That's kind of scary. So, I mean, I don't blame him. Throws a lot of interceptions. Why do you think they wouldn't got Trey? Got a little insurance policy. He was on Dancing with the Stars. Did he win? Did he win it? I know. I remember watching that season. I don't know. Did he win it? Dancing with the Stars. Emmitt Smith, man, he was a good player. A Boogie says even without Bosa, Week 1, the disrespect for the Niners for these so-called experts picking the Steelers over us. I don't think it's disrespectful. I mean, they're at home. They got an underrated team. I think it's gonna be a close game, man. And if you don't have Bosa, that's a big X factor. I honestly, I don't see it as disrespect. I know a lot of the media, like everybody's like, "Oh, they're doubting us. I can't believe it. Keep the receipts." To me, it wasn't a keep the receipts type moment. It wasn't a keep the receipts post. That's why I just said, "Hey, the Niners are doubting us. Pay Nick Bosa." That was my take on it, and I don't see why it's a bad thing. I mean, they have a good defense. They got T.J. Watt. He's going up against Colton Malkovich. You got Najee Harris. You got Minka Fitzpatrick. You got a good coach, man. They got great receivers. They might be able to torch our secondary if we don't have Nick Bosa. So I don't think it's a stretch for the experts to choose the Steelers. I think it was 6-5. It's not like they chose all 11 of them chose the Steelers. It's pretty even, 6-5, right? 6-5. I don't think it was that bad, man. I really don't. Fired up Niners. CMC is just as valuable on offense as Bosa is on defense. Yet CMC gets chump change compared to Bosa. It's true, but that's unfortunate for CMC because he plays running back, and the running back is not a valued position anymore. It is a very undervalued position in the NFL. Running backs, I feel bad for them, man. They do a lot of the work for these teams. They grind, they take the hits, they get the most injuries. They take a lot of hits to the legs, man. Running backs, tough position, and they get paid like the least relative to the other position. It is actually very unfortunate to be a running back in the NFL these days. You know, it's tough, man. It is very, very tough to see running backs getting paid nothing in comparison to other positions. Hey, I'd like the money that they get paid. Don't get me wrong. Yo, Josh Jacobs, run me that 12 mil. I get it. He's getting paid a lot of money to do what he does. But in comparison to the other players, they're getting nothing, man. It is chump change. T Money says Bosa's going to pay. I think he meant Bosa's going to pull a TJ Watt where he signed 2 days before the season opener. Could you imagine? Dude, if they pay him on Friday on 9/7, Bosa Day, 9/7, then I know they trolled us. They know they trolled us. Niner sickness. Oh, God. It says, have Jake Moody kick to see if we pay Bosa or trade him. Like, if he makes. So, what are you saying? If Nick Bosa, if Jake Moody, they line him up for a 40-yard field goal. If he hits it, you pay Bosa. If he misses it, you trade him. Are you kidding me? I'm not putting the fate of the 49ers on Jake Moody with the quad injury. Please, God, don't. Could you imagine if they did it? Can you imagine? All right, Kyle. Here's what we're going to do, guys. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have Jake Moody. I want you to make this kick, Jake. If you nail it, we're paying Nick Bosa. We're paying Nick Bosa. No pressure. That is the ultimate pressure cooker for Jake Moody. You know what? If you want Jake Moody to break the pressure, and be able to play under pressure, that right there is the biggest gut check you can give Jake Moody. Forget icing him in the preseason. Forget all this crap. If you want to make him become the guy you want him to be, extrapolate all the potential out of Jake Moody, go out there, make him line up tomorrow in practice. All right, guys, listen up. Jake Moody here. He's our kicker. He's coming off a quad injury. He's going to try to kick this 40-yard field goal. Oh, guys are like, oh, okay, he's a kicker. If he makes it, we're paying Nick Bosa. If he misses it, we're trading him. No pressure. Could you imagine? Okay, that would be crazy. Tommy, good question. Let's talk about it. Do you guys think Nick Bosa is being greedy? I just went on a long rant about this, so I don't know if you missed it. I'm gonna ask you guys: do you think Nick Bosa is being greedy? Um, and then the follow-up question from Genghis, he says, "It sends a bad message to the locker room." Yeah, so we're gonna get to that. Do you think Nick Bosa is being greedy? I want you guys to answer the question. You'll take Smitty. Y'all are crazy. I'm still shook if Jake Moody has to be the guy. Just a bit outside, says Randy. Just a bit outside. Do you guys think he's being greedy? Let me know. Let's see. Y'all are crazy. Sacktown says hell no. CJ says we don't know if he is, but the situation seems like he is. I can't get over it. Peter Parker says no. Mario says it could be from the 5-yard line. Oh man. Debbie says no. Genghis says pay the man. Hell no, says Sati. I agree with the people that say no. Look at this. So Sati says hell no to that, brother. He came back from an ACL injury and had 15 and a half sacks, followed by 18 and a half season with the depoy. That's it, man. Bottom line. Look how good he came back after it seems like he got better after he got injured. Like, honestly, man, he's your defense. He's the heart and soul. He's not being greedy. Again, I feel like the agent is dictating this, and Nick Bosa said the agent's going to do this. The NFL does not care. Jed York, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they do not care about Nick Bosa in 5 years. After this contract's done, they could give a flying F about Nick Bosa when this is done. The league does not care. You're one injury away from your career being over. You never know what's going to happen. Life is like a box of chocolates. I told you that earlier. You never know what you're going to get in life. Nick Bosa's agent is probably making him look greedy. And that's all I see. But at the end of the day, man, you want to get what you deserve. When you're negotiating money, you want to get what you deserve. In your heart of hearts, you want what you think is right. And I get it. I see where the team is coming from. They want to protect the future. You're all in. You're at the table. Your chips are all in. You got to make the move. Yeah. It's tough, man. You know, the thing that is crazy to me is you got Chris Jones, you got Brian Burns and Nick Bosa. All of them are in the same situation, man. It's crazy. All those guys. I've never seen this late into the season to have 3 players from a defensive line holding out this deep. We have 6 days, not even a week. We have 6 days left. We have Danny Gray days. Until the season. I mean, this day's almost over. We're almost at Jeff Garcia days until the season. We're almost at 5 days away from the season. We're almost at Trey Lance Day. We're at Trey Lance days, pretty much. We're almost at Trey Lance days. And Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, and Brian Burns don't have an extension. The Niners play the Giants, but the Niners play the Giants at home this year in Levi's. We don't have to go to MetLife. It's definitely the agent, because if he gets most of the contract, yeah, obviously the agent gets more clients, gets more money, gets more percentages, all that good stuff. What's this show about? It's about the 49ers, Teddy. It's about the 49ers trying to get Nick Bosa his contract. We're having a dialogue. We're having a conversation. We're talking about Ian Rappaport saying that it's going to take a significant work to get Nick Bosa's contract hammered down, right? It's not close. They're not close. They need to have significant progress in negotiations, significant breakthrough. That's what we're talking about. Ian Rappaport said today, the negotiations are said to be ongoing around if San Francisco will make Bosa the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, surpassing Aaron Donald. That's what we're talking about. If you're on a Niner channel, we're talking about Nick Bosa today. See, you got any questions? Do I think Debo is going to have that 2021 year again? Says Arnav. I think so. I think he's going to go wild this year. I think he's going to go crazy. It's just the vibe I get. I think everybody sees Debo locked in. He was not happy with his season last year. You know, he didn't come into camp in shape. You know, we got skinny Debo. He's on a mission this year. The Niners are going to block you for all those pay Nick comments. They might. They might block me. They got to run me a check if we get Nick Bosa paid, right? Rob says Brian Irolt is one of the most feared agents by NFL teams. He's tough, man. He's a tough negotiator. I think he also represents Joe Burrow. When he's ready to get paid, bro, that agent is going to be relentless. Joe Burrow is going to get some crazy money. That agent's crazy. Yeah, you know, the team is, so he says I'm already thinking we're going into Pittsburgh without Bosa and thinking how the hell we're going to get this dub. You know, and that's what the team said today. You know, Tashawn Gibson, Talanoa Hufanga, they both said, you know, we got to prepare with the players that we have. And this is the mindset the players have right now is we have to prepare with who we have today. Right now. Nick Bosa's not there today. They have to prepare like Nick's not there. And that statement was tough. Like, that is a rough reality, but it is the reality we have to face. They still have a great team. They have an amazing offense, but it won't be easy without Nicholas John Bosa. So, CJ, we have to score a lot of points, and they got a good defense, man. Let's not take them lightly. TJ Watt is a monster, man. Colton Malkovich, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Beast mode. We'll get to Clelin Ferrell as the backup. Heard he sucks. I mean, he was a 4th pick in the NFL draft, and he has not lived up to that 4th draft potential. So it's not Nick Bosa. Beast Mode says, if Bosa doesn't get paid before the season starts, how do I think the situation plays out? I think if the 49ers lose games, I think they're going to pay him the money he wants. That's really to me, that's what happens. I feel if Nick Bosa doesn't play and they don't reach the agreement, 49ers, if they lose a game, Nick Bosa's agent's going to laugh at him and say, all right, you ready to pay me the money? And they'll pay him. They're going to pay him. I think that's what happens ultimately. So to me, it's either you pay him now or you wait, you lose a game, and then you pay him later. I think that's the situation that we have. And if you win, then John Lynch and the team can say, guess what? We won a game without you. Take our offer. That's really how it's going to go. The Niners are going to say, hey, take our offer. If the Niners lose, Brian Aralt's going to say, you want to sack a Rooney here? Take my offer. It's a tough situation. We're in a very dire straight situation right now with 1 week before the season starts, man. It's full tilt situation. Drama's at an all-time high. You can't write a better script than this. The drama is peak right now. It is cinema. It is peak. It is a movie. The 49ers drama is always at an all-time high. Now imagine they get Nick Bosa, all this stuff, and they get to the Super Bowl. The story of the 49ers 2023 season will be an all-timer. The 30 for 30 will be absolutely tremendous. We'll see, man. See what happens. Fired Up says if our offense is at all who they were last year, they should be able to get past a few teams without Bosa. Absolutely. They should be able to win. I'm not saying that they can't win games without Bosa. This team is so good with or without Bosa, but Bosa takes them to the upper echelon. If Bosa's there, they're an elite team, top 4 team in the NFL. Without Bosa, maybe a top 10 team. That's the difference. That's a big difference. Big gap. They can still win games. They got a great offense. They have a good defense, but it's not elite without Bosa. Sati says, well, defense has been winning us games. Pressure's on Kyle and the offense now with Kyle's genius play calling and all those offensive weapons. We can't rely on defense to bail us out. So, yeah, that's a good point. If the 49ers don't have Nick Bosa, and you got to realize this defense has bailed this team out time after time over the years when we had mid-quarterback play. Now it's supposed to be this great offense. You believe in Brock. Brock's this guy. You have CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. There's no excuses, right? There's no excuses to not be a 30 point a game offense at the very least. 30 points a game. You should be able to go out there and steamroll teams with this offense. The pressure's on Kyle. Can you carry the team? Can your offense carry the team instead of your defense? Can you be the guy? Can you be the genius? Can you be the grand wizard and carry this team on your back, Kyle, with your offense? Now we'll see what Kyle Shanahan and his offense is made of. If Nick Bosa is not there, this is Kyle, his moment to shove it and stick it to Nick and say, guess what? We don't have you, but my offense is amazing. This is Kyle's time to shine. He traded away Trey Lance because he thinks he made a mistake. You got Brock Purdy. Show us. Show us, Kyle. Absolute cinema. This is going to be a movie of a season. Kyle Shanahan, Nick Bosa. Okay, let's ball, man. What a season this is going to be. What a season, man. What a season. It's going to be wild, man. Can Kyle Shanahan and his master defense save us? It's going to be interesting. Gonna be interesting. They paid Trent with no issues. Paid Jimmy Garoppolo with no issues. That's all I'm gonna say. They paid Jimmy Garoppolo with no issues. They didn't blink twice. They didn't think twice. They didn't blink twice. They ran that man his check. They gave Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo his check. Am I going to be IG live after this? We'll see. I was live earlier. I got to make some dinner. I'm hungry. Genghis. Kyle's been on the hot seat since the Lance trade. Niner sickness. He's upset. He's obnoxious. Everybody's stressed out. Everybody's in shambles, my boy. We understand. They paid D Ford with no problem. Sati says he DM'd Bosa. I like it. I like it. Terrence says, I don't think so. We got a great defense with D'Amico. You're right. Wilkes is he's a question mark. We don't know. Never know. One of the back D's defensive ends might step up. They might. And again, you gotta see what Drake Jackson and Clelin Ferrell. I'm not gonna doubt them, but they're definitely not Nick Bosa. Kyle Shanahan doesn't make deals. It's Prague. Yeah, Prague's the guy. He's the money guy. He's the guru. He's the one that writes those checks. But Kyle's the offensive guy, and it's his offense. It's his team, right? So, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I hope we get this done. I hope the 49ers get this done in the next day, man. I'm sweating. I know everybody is. I'm with you guys. I want to see this done because I want the drama to be over. Believe me, more than anybody out there, I want this drama to be over. I need to see the 49ers pay Nick Bosa. We all need to see it. We need to see this get done because, man, the locker room, I just feel for these players. Like, you could just sense it today. Talanoa Hufanga, man, he just sounded like he wanted to cry, man. He's like, I don't know. He goes, this above my pay rate. I can't answer those questions. Like, it was stressed asking those guys, to ask, a guy like Hufanga that, what do you think about the Bosa situation? That's stressful, man. He's a good captain. He answered the question well. He took it well. And Gibson, man, good veteran. He handled the question right. He says, business is business. We wish he was here, but we got to move on and act like he's not here. So it's tough. I feel bad for these guys because I know they want Nick in there. I think we all want him. The players are just like us. We all want Nick Bosa, man, because they know how good this guy makes this team. But it's business, man, and we got to sit back and see what happens. But the 49ers knew that they had to sign him and get his extension. Like, they knew this was coming. At the end of the day, man, you can't act like you didn't know this was coming if you're the 49ers. So they just got to pay him. They got to pay Nick Bosa. So we'll see. You guys have a good rest of your night. Red Eye says, I wonder if the line has moved for the Steelers. I don't think so. I haven't seen the line move yet. It's still a 2.5 point favorite from the last time I checked today. 49ers are minus 2.5. Yep, just like you said. Let's pray and hope. Let's pray and hope that Jake Moody does not have to decide our fate because he's still coming off an injury. But oh, real quick before we're done with the show, I do want to go over 5 more minutes. I want to go over the injury report. Let's go over this injury report real quick before we leave. 5 more minutes, because this is important. This is important. Let's go over the injury report. So we have today George Kittle. He has his adductor strain. He was working on the side field. Jake Moody, he was there, working on the side field. Oren Burks, Tayshaun Gibson, he says he's probably going to play. He told Nick Wagner he wants to play, but he came back. He was dealing with the shoulder. Jordan Mason, Ray McLeod, they were all on the side field. But 2 players in particular, Dre Greenlaw, he had a hamstring injury. He's back. He was practicing. He didn't practice all off-season in preseason, so he's back. And then Talanoa Hufanga, who had a Baker cyst on his knee, he came back and he practiced today. So that's good. Good news. I know a lot of people are worried about George Kittle. I think he'll be back and playing this week. They're just being very cautious with him. You don't want to rush him. You don't want to get him hurt. I think George Kittle will play this weekend. Again, they'll probably be very light with him in practice. We'll see what happens. But if they don't have George Kittle and Nick Bosa this week, that's a dire straight situation. But I'm pretty sure Kittle will play week 1. But anyways, you guys have a good rest of your night. Take care. I love you. Go Niners. Let us hope. Let us pray. And Nick Bosa gets his money. Have a good night.